And you'll see, you know, old-time pie people making it this way. They put a lot of butter in there. I just put a little bit. And it just goes underneath your crust, or underneath your lattice. It'll work just fine. The idea is just to give that a little bit more richness. So if I'm making lattice, I'll just put that right on top of it. It'll melt. Yeah, it'll melt. It'll just disappear.
Will the crust keep that shape, or will it go down as well?
It should go down. If the butter melts fairly quickly, it should melt as soon as it goes in the oven. So hopefully it won't keep that shape. If it's something that holds it up for a while, it will keep that shape. So that's where you see apple pies that look really big on top, but they're actually hollow underneath. You have this big airspace inside because the apples were that high, but then they cooked down. It's one of the advantages of using apples that are already partly cooked. When you do it this way, they're already broken down a little bit, so they're not going to make such a big airspace inside. All right, so I'm just breaking off excess lattice here so I can use those scraps. So I can use all these pieces. Alright, so let's start folding some of these back. Fold back these halfway, every other strand. Take another piece of dough. Slide it here in the middle. And fold those back. Again, being kind of gentle, because after all, this dough isn't you know, built for speed, so to speak. It's really kind of delicate, especially once it starts warming up a little bit. Once it starts coming to room temperature, you really want to be careful not to overwork it. Just kind of goes back. The opposite ones. Okay, it's about the right length. I like doing it this way so much better than what I see some people do, where they just lay them all across one direction and they lay them on top the other direction. That's what I call a faux lattice. You know, it's really not the real thing, and it doesn't look as authentic. When you can go through the trouble and really make a lattice where it's really interlaced, there are a lot of people who will be really like, ooh, wow, that's really cool. How'd you do that?
Lots and lots of time.
Yeah, just tell them, you know, I worked hard to learn how to do that. I paid lots of money and I struggled through culinary school. And you'll find people say funny things to you.
I was called Chef Boyardee the other day.
Yeah, get used to it. People will start saying funny stuff to you. They start saying weird, irrational stuff to you. Parties and stuff. You go to a party and people say, what do you do? Oh, I go to school. What do you major? Oh, culinary arts. What's that? Is that like graphic design? A lot of people don't know.
Exactly like graphic design.
With food. Yeah, with food. I mean, it's funny. I get all kinds of strange things. And of course, the fun thing is when you go to a restaurant and you happen to be wearing part of your uniform or something like that.
Oh yeah.
The owner stops and asks.
Oh, they'll want to talk to you. They'll invite you back to the kitchen. They want to say hello. I mean, that's part of the fun.
They want to give free food.
Oh yeah.
That's what I tried.
They just want your opinion.
They really do. I mean, it's really fun how it's such a novelty to people.
And everyone says, oh, I would love to do that.
Culinary what?
What I'm doing next here is I'm taking my excess and just sort of trimming off a little bit for the excess. As I said, these big
It
long...
looks like so pretty.
It does look pretty when it's done. I mean, it really does. Even if you have some flour on there, it's very rustic looking.
The top it does.
One of your classmates asked me a little earlier, are we going to be egg washing the top? And we can. Egg wash will add some shine and it will add color. So it looks very nice. If you plan on sprinkling sugar on top, egg wash will make that sugar stick. So those are all good things. You don't have to though. Egg wash is just an optional thing. It looks nice. I personally I love the rustic look, so I just go ahead and I leave it kind of rustic and just unfinished or un-egg washed on top. That's just my personal preference, but that's not something that's necessarily required. Now, I'm a fold under man. Okay, that's what I like to do. I like to fold under when it comes to pies. So what that means is I'm taking my lattice and my bottom crust and I'm folding it under. Now, it does take a few minutes to do and a little bit of patience, but I think it makes for a nice finished edge. Other people are fold over people, where they fold it up this way and they fold it over and then pinch it. Either way is okay. It doesn't really matter which way you do it, as long as you get a good result and you're able to finish the pie. But I think my mother is a fold over person, and that's who I learned from originally, so I was a fold-over person for a while. And then I started being taught by other people, and they taught me how the fold-under method was. So I liked becoming the fold-under kind of person. But it's just all personal preference. And you'll find everybody and his brother, especially older ladies, will have a lot of opinions about how you make pie. Really. I mean, they will try to tell you that you're doing it wrong. Remember, they're not doing it wrong and you're not doing it wrong. My grandmother made a fine pie, and I would never argue with her if she was still around. But I don't want her telling me that I'm doing it wrong either. We're all doing it right when it really comes down to it. The idea is what kind of result do you get? In the world of commercial bakeries, the best way is what makes you the most money. So whatever way is the fastest and most efficient. There are bakeries out there that don't go through this much handwork anymore. What they'll do instead is they use a press. In the press, they just go and press it down, and it presses a perfect pie crust, a perfect bottom crust for you. If you put the top crust over it, it'll press that perfectly seamed, cut it for you, nice and neat. And it's all done. It's all mealy crust. If you want a real flaky crust, there's only one way to really do it, and that's to make a buttonette. Alright, so I fold it under all the way around. You can leave it just like that if you like. And that's a nice looking pie the way it is. There are some pieces here that are loose. I want to go around and just double check. But you can also go further and you can pinch the edges if you like. If you want to create something of a scalloped edge. And all I'm doing here is I'm taking my two fingers, I kind of put them at one distance apart, and I press my other finger in between. And what that does is it creates an evenly spaced scallop on the edge. Your fingers don't change width, and as long as you keep them the same distance apart, your scalloped edge will look the same all the way around. So all I'm doing is just kind of pinching them, giving them something of a finished edge.
Did you use a fork to do it too?
Forks work? Sure.
The funniest thing I think I've seen was my grandma use dentures.
Yeah, for dentures?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Then she found my grandpa's and taken it.
Not the most sanitary thing, but...
We didn't eat her pies that often.
Well,
I'm too cool.
the thing is, I know dentures can be cleaned and all, but...
Preachy.
Yeah. The thought.
Preachy pie. ABC pie.
It's like on the Seinfeld show when Kramer decided to make dinner for this group of people, and they were all germaphobes. And
in the back.
And
Yeah,
then
in the shower.
Yeah, he just happened to mention passing that he had garbage disposal in the shower. They said, "What do you mean? Why would you do that?" He goes, "Oh, I prepared this whole meal while I was in the shower." "You were in the shower?" She goes, "Yeah, I made it while I bathed." And people were about ready to lose it, but they were all germaphobes. All right, so nice looking little pie, ready to go in the oven. All scalloped on the edge. It's going to become, the scallop's going to become a lot more noticeable if it's a flat pie top, of course, because the flat top is going to, well, it's going to be flat, so it won't be so distracting. When you have a piece of dough over top like this, and you have it rolled under, it's so much more noticeable, those scallops.